women doing things not necessarily to actually please men, but actually to kind of maintain position with other women.
Yeah, well, it's like that whole idea of, I definitely felt like this when I was younger, the whole idea of like, you have to hate your boyfriend's ex-girlfriend. You can't be friends. That's the idea. It's like, in society, you have to hate them. You have to hate them. And I felt like that when I got with Aiden.
Think about that though, right? Think about that. If this person, that you really care about, let's say even love, right? And they made a decision before you were around, and they spent time with this other person, you actively taking a position to hate them off the bat based on nothing other than your own insecurity, your own kind of disposition of, being in fear of, what's that other person got that I haven't, or what have you. What's really happening is, and how we should be looking at it, if we can muster the ability to, to look at it objectively, is that this person probably must have value. This person, because I, for instance, my partner that I'm with now, that I really love, that I really see these, wonderful parts of their personality and these endearing elements of who they are, they've seen this, and maybe even, let's go as far as saying, this other person might have things that are similar to me. We might be similar.
Yeah.
So that, I think that, again, that's the culture, like off the bat, like the competition edge, the peer pressure is just like there off the bat, right? Find reasons. And in the end, you carry that weight yourself. Yeah. And
I think like when I was younger, because I'd grown up with like, my mum being like very, my mum is quite insecure. Like she is. And there was a lot of comments like about my dad's wife, about like Alex when I was young, and as a kid you absorb it and you're like, yeah, okay, maybe that's true. But then as I definitely felt like I had to be like that when I got with like Aiden. Like Rob didn't have a girlfriend before me, I was his first girlfriend. But when like I got with Aiden, I felt like, I have to dislike Ruby. But like obviously I grew up and I realised like I don't have to dislike that person. That is just something that I felt like I felt like that's normal. Yep. And then now me and her are really good friends because actually we're quite similar people. Like, well,
exactly like I said.
We've got things in common. We get on, and she's not my best friend, but she's one of my good friends.
But
and I will spend time with her.
As you move through your life, right? If you were to kind of hold people in this abhorrent esteem that they've wronged you in some way and the universe owes you because as you go through the years, that's a fucking heavy weight
and
that you are carrying, not them.
I even think now about like how that insecure that used to make me, but then now that I'm like over that, like have so many I have so many less. My insecurities are less, because you're not projecting it out. But yeah, I think I definitely I was lucky in a lot of senses that I had so many women around me, so many different women. I had probably the main women in my life would be obviously my mum, Helen, Alex, my nan. Yeah, probably them 4 women, which, as you know, couldn't be any more different. All 4 of them in personalities, in values, in everything. Had my nan very passive, very loving, forgiving. I remember throwing a poppy coaster. My nan had these coasters that my auntie Zoe got her for her birthday. It was her 50th birthday, and I was going through that angry phase of just angry at the world, and I launched one across the room and it broke, and I just remember my nan picking it up, putting it back where it was, and just not speaking. And I knew how upset that would make her, that's why I did it. But she was so forgiving and so loving that she couldn't even bring herself to tell me off, because her empathy was there for how I was feeling. Okay. So she prioritised how I felt.
So how did that make you feel in that moment? Did you then feel guilty, or did you feel...
Yeah, I went to bed and cried because I knew how upset she was. Because I wanted her to shout at me, but she didn't shout at me, because I think she knew that's what I was trying to do as well, was to just get a reaction.
And she understood where you were. So really it was an act of...
My nan definitely taught me patience, with everyone. And I think there's an element of my nan where I learned there's a difference between patience and selflessness and being completely taken advantage of.
And being
That's
available.
something I learned, and I think I definitely, like, my mum is the complete opposite. So that, from both of them, balanced me as a person. Like, I got my nan's very, like, forgiving, loving, patient side, but then I do have this side of me with my mum, which is very, like, when I need to be, very selfish, and I'm quite fiery when I want to be. And, like, my friends always say that when I'm fiery, they get, like, anxious because they know that you have to push me to 100. Aiden will probably disagree, be like, no, you like that every day. Right. My friends would say that you'd have to push me to, like, the maximum for me to behave like that. And that's because there's a balance there, whereas mum is, like, literally just short fuse, gone. Like, you just pull the pin out and that's it. So I like both of them. And then I have someone like Alex, who's very, and Helen as well,
they're probably the most similar.
Yeah, who are very sort of, like, liberal, very free thinking, very
maternal,
celebratory of, like, of women, of you, of like, your individual differences, and also very, like, Helen is very hard. She's very hard, and she's very, I was talking to my dad about this recently. It was like, he told me she was upset, and I said, well, I didn't even know she was upset. How am I supposed to know she's upset if she's not going to tell me? But he was like, oh, she doesn't like you guys to see her upset. And then I thought about it. I've never seen her upset in my life. Like, I've seen Helen cry once, and it was because of me, and she had a drink. So, you know, but Helen never, you don't see her sad.
She's a proper matriarch, though, isn't she, holding everything together.
She's just she's just rock hard. And then you've got, like, Alex, where Alex, I suppose, me and Alex, like, talk about feelings. Like, if she's having a bad day, then she'll be like, this is why I'm having a bad day. And then, like, we can talk about feelings, and then it kind of just, feelings become less, like, intense.
Scary, yeah.
And more like, actually, I'm fine. Like, it's actually normal to feel like this right now, kind of thing. So having all them women around you that are so different, like, as I've got older, I've been so grateful for that, because I definitely started to pull away from some things that I learnt from my mum, like like picking people apart, or
I learned that from my mum. That's one thing that I still struggle with, just criticism.
Yeah, and I do too. Like, I find it hard. Like, I think about it. I like Florence Given's book again. Like, she did a whole chapter on this, and she spoke about, you know, one of the most uncomfortable things you can ever do is, it's so easy to look at someone and think, oh, they look like shit, because that makes you feel better. But the hardest thing to do is think, what have they got that I haven't? Like, what have they got? And whatever they've got that I haven't got, I'm going to go and get, because, you know, that's the issue here. So it can be like I've definitely done it with girls that are really assertive, and I find it really hard to assert myself. Like, I will have this thing in my head for months where it's like, oh, like, do I look like a bitch? Like, do I look like a bad person? Are they telling everyone that I'm really, like, horrible? Like, that's how I think when I've asserted myself.
Yep.
So when I see other girls that are like, no, don't do that, or asserting themselves in whatever way, I think, oh my God, what a bitch. But actually, that is what I wish I could do without all the guilt of doing that.
Yeah, but I think you're at an age where all of this, you're displaying a lot of introspection and a lot of internal work on yourself, and even in the way that you describe having those 4 women in your life. You know, there's pros and cons from all of them, but what I give you credit for is that you are conscious enough to actually be paying attention, because there's lots of us that are just moving through life, we're not paying attention, we're not learning anything, we're not making any progress in any way whatsoever, and so that's a credit to you. But it's not easy. I mean, that criticism thing you talk about, or having a mum, like, who's
imposter syndrome,
who's very kind of definitive and matter of fact, and not so easy to communicate with. That's something that I've lived with my whole life, and it's on one hand it's heartbreaking, because you're just so aware of what you're missing in the way of being able to communicate, like you said, in, I guess, you know, being able to talk about feelings and just knowing it's all right without judgment or without some kind of reprimand or something. Yeah, I've never had that, and I often wonder, you know, for me personally, I must have been paying attention, because I've tried, and I try, and I am trying all the time to try and, when those bits of me come out, you know, and you know me a little bit when we're having fun and the banter comes out, and you know, I work on a building site, banter and kind of being quick-witted and just the lads ripping holes in each other. I'm really good at that.
Yeah,
and that's why
I'm like that,
because I've been batting it off for my whole life. So you just learn to just find the gaps, and like, I'm not proud of that, and I'm getting better at not doing it. But man, it's conditioning.